Mayor Clark.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Bell.
Present.
Councillor Snatch.
Present.
Councillor Fisher.
Present.
Councillor Tuyu. Present. Councillor Goff.
Present.
Councillor Bell.
Present.
Thank you.
This meeting is being streamed live on the Township of Ramara YouTube channel. Be advised that by attending a public meeting of the Council of the Township of Ramara, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and will form a part of the public record. The chair, CAO, and/or clerk have the discretion and authority to terminate or interrupt the live streaming in exceptional circumstances where the content of debate is considered inappropriate to be published. Thank you.
Okay, I'll look for the motion to approve the agenda.
That the May 26th council agenda be adopted as presented.
Moved by Councillor Snatch, second by Councillor Goff. Any questions arising from the agenda? Not seeing any, so all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Do I have a disclosure of pecuniary interest in any member of council? Councillor Snatch.
Maybe I'll ask you, for item 7.1, my son has a STR license. This is just a deputation. Can I stay in and watch, or should I leave the room and declare a pecuniary interest?
Oh boy, I think you can watch, but what's your feeling, Madam Clerk? If there's any decision to be made, I think Councillor Snatch should excuse.
That's correct, Your Worship.
Yeah.
Okay, so then in that case, I won't declare. Does any council member object to that?
But if there's a decision to be made later, yep, perfect. Okay, announcements. I have a few of them, actually. We had September 23rd, the county conference was at the casino. It was our biggest one yet. I think we had just close to 150 participants across the municipalities. And I got a lot of positive feedback about the quality of the deputations and the workshops we have there compared to AMO and even Roma. And I would have to share that we had some presenters from this township. John Popple was presenting on short-term rentals. That was a great workshop, actually, by the way, and well turned out. A lot of hands went up, a lot of questions. And Brittany Wilson was also one of the presenters when our HR, there was an HR presentation, and she was there on behalf of the township. And I don't think we had any other employees doing presentations, but it was well received. A great conference for all that were there. Also, Friday, I was at Lakehead University. I believe Councillor Tuyu and Councillor Bell were there as well when they announced that's the location of the new hospital. And the province released $3 million, which doesn't seem like a lot when you're building a hospital, but it's to do the studies and the plans to get ready. And that will be the location of the new Soldiers Memorial Hospital. Second time they've announced it really is getting a new hospital, but the first time they announced it when they were supposed to announce that we're getting a new hospital. So I believe Soldiers is 101 years old. It's a great location because there'll never be any development to the south. So then it'll always be on the outskirts of the city. And I can already see my fire chief shaking his head. Yes, you always want to be on the outskirts of the city when you're trying to get in, unless paramedics or anything in and out. You don't want to be driving into the downtown hub. So great location. Any other announcements? Councillor Bell.
Thank you. I will actually comment a little bit on the announcement, but first I wanted to thank the Ramara Historical Society's speaker night on May 15th. Was Dave McCarthy and the McCarthy family speaking about 4 generations of doing tile drains and property upgrades. So that was a really great event. So thanks to the Historical Society for that. And as you said, on May 23rd, I was at the hospital announcement. And to that, I just wanted to add, there's the word synergy was used throughout all the presentations. And I just wanted to say, you know, I concur that the word synergy is exactly right. In my personal experience, I have had a life-altering event where the University of McMaster University and Hamilton Health Sciences were working together. So a very similar kind of environment. And I was obviously the beneficiary of that because I'm here to tell the story. So really amazing news for Aurelia. And if I might, just on the topic of healthcare, for those listening today, the Couchiching Family Health Team has their wellness event running from beginning at 9:30, running through till 3:30 this afternoon. On June 1st, there's the Foundation Soldiers Ride. So anybody can still join that. It's a wonderful fundraiser. And then finally on June 3rd, the Couchiching Ontario Health Team Caregiver Appreciation Day. So many folks don't recognize themselves as caregivers. They sometimes think, oh, I'm just taking care of my mom or my dad, but you are a caregiver. And so this day is for you. It's an opportunity to network. There'll be presentations throughout the course of the day. So if anybody's interested in any of those and wants dates or how to sign up, just let me know at sbal@ramara.ca and I can help you out with that. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor. Any other? Councillor Fisher?
Thank you. Two things. Yes, I did attend the county conference. I was there. It was, like you said, it was very well attended, and amazing speakers. I sat in with John's presentation on STR, and let's just say I think Ramara is a little bit, people are jealous of us and what we've done in Ramara as far as short-term rentals go. Secondly, coming up on June 3rd, the Rooted in Ramara Committee is meeting outside of their regular meeting day, and we're actually having a work day on Tuesday, June 3rd. We're putting the vegetables in the garden, getting everything ready. So we're always looking for volunteers. If you just want to come out to the Ramara Center, see where our gardens are, get your hands a little bit dirty, and find out about some of the programs and events that we have coming up. I encourage you to do so.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements? Not seeing any, so then I will move on to presentations. We have none. Public or special meetings of council, we have none, but we do have a deputation. I think it's Yasmin and Yashar are here to do a deputation. Are they online?
Yes.
Good morning, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, Council. Can I just verify everyone can see and hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. First of all, thank you for having us here today. A special thank you as well to Mr. Colton McIsaac and Mr. John Popple. They helped us walk through this process. Obviously, we don't really know much about deputation, so I just wanted to thank them for helping us understand how the process works and getting us here. So, myself and my brother are here today, and what we're looking for is a special exemption to from 2.21.87 of the STRA, which does not allow for a new STRA to be within existing 300 meters of an existing license. So we're looking at 1207 Black Beach Lane. Previously, all requirements were met for the STRA license, except for the fact that we were within 300, the property is within 300 meters of another STRA. At the current license is 2025-005, which is the license which is not allowing us to get an STRA. Our reasoning for asking for exemption is given that 1207 Black Beach Lane is by far the largest property on Black Beach Lane. It's practically impossible for us to ever satisfy the 300 meter requirements to get an STRA. So what we're saying is because the property is so large, we are never going to be able to get one because we're close to so many properties. So effectively, if any property on Black Beach Lane were to ever get an STRA license, we would not be allowed. Conversely, if we were ever to get one for 1207 Black Beach Lane, no other property in the area would also be allowed to get an STRA license. And just for a little bit of context, that's about 47, by my count, 47 or 48 properties, which 1207 Black Beach Lane butts up against, just once again, due to the sheer size of the property. To give you kind of an example of kind of what that looks like, the current license holder preventing it is 1166 Black Beach Lane. So for an example, 1346, which is all the way at the very, very, very other side of Black Beach Lane, would in theory be allowed because properties are roughly 900 meters apart. But if either of those two properties were to get one, or even one of them, 1207 Black Beach Lane would not be allowed because of the fact that, due to, once again, its sheer size, 1207 Black Beach Lane actually touches both properties. So the very first house on Black Beach Lane and effectively the very last house on Black Beach Lane is touched by 1207 Black Beach Lane. So just to give you kind of a context of how big the property is and the fact that it's very difficult for us to get one. The existing one could get one almost a kilometer away could get one. but us being in the middle could not get either, which is, we just feel that's unfair. And once again, if we were to ever get one, we'd block effectively the whole street from ever getting an STRA license, which once again, we believe is unfair for everybody in that situation. As we said, we understand the need for this bylaw as it was created to prevent overabundance of short-term rentals in the area, which could negatively affect the property owners. So that's why we're asking for an exemption for this, just due once again to the sheer size. We understand that, for instance, for new properties, there's a minimum frontage of 30 meters, which is roughly 10 houses. Our property encompasses 45 houses, just to give you an idea, once again, of the size of the property and why we think that it doesn't seem unreasonable to us, of course, that 1207 Black Beach Lane were to get an exemption, because it's virtually impossible for us to ever not touch another house that may or may not have an STRA license. So that's what we're hoping for. I don't know if my brother Yashar has anything he'd like to comment on that, but that's kind of our position, if you will.
Okay, any questions for the presenters by members of council? Not seeing any questions at this time. Anything else you'd like to add?
No. Once again, that's my brother. That's everything. And thank you all for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. And it's the end of our agenda where we deal with any deputation. So just thank you for your deputation.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So next I have open public forum, and I believe nobody registered to speak.
That's correct, Your Worship.
That is correct. I think there was an issue with the website, though. It's been fixed.
It is fixed, yes, Your
It's
Worship.
fixed. Okay, thank you. So now I have the minutes, Madam Clerk.
That the council meeting minutes dated May 12, 2025 be adopted as presented.
Moved by the deputy mayor, second by Councillor Tuyu. Any questions arising from the minutes? Not seeing any, so all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So I need a motion now, again, Madam Clerk. To go into
That
committee.
council does now recess and convene as committee of the whole in open session at 9:45 a.m.
Moved by Councillor Fisher, second by Councillor Goff. All in favor? That is carried. So we're going to do the whole, just give me a minute here. So we had no closed session or reports, or council reports, so boards and committees. So the first one is council referral reports. Madam Clerk.
They report AD 1125 be received and that council approve the submission of the proposed delegation topics for the 2025 AMO conference, and that the topics submitted shall include the following: Ice Storm 2025 emergency relief funding, health and safety water stream grant opportunity, and that staff be directed to submit delegation requests prior to the AMO deadline of May 30th, 2025.
Okay, so that's a suggested motion. I'll look Councillor Fisher and Councillor Tuyu. Questions? Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last January, when we were at Roma, we actually met with the Minister of Transportation regarding the bridge option for Brecken here. And we had told him, you specifically had said, we will see you at AMO with a bunch of studies that we were supposed to do. Have we proceeded with starting those studies or whatever we needed to be able to actually go back to him, or is it too late for that and we need to maybe hold off to Roma again to meet with him?
Wally, go ahead.
Through your worship, to Joe, as far as I know, nothing's been done from our side since the last delegation.
Yeah, we were hoping to have the CIP done and actually a costing on, like, at least a rough estimate on the bridge. So no, we don't have that information yet.
No.
No.
Is there time to have that done before we actually?
I'm not sure. Well, the CIP definitely no. But in terms of the studies and things like that, it could be fairly tight. We'd have to check with infrastructure and Tatham Engineering and see what we could come up with.
I think we're better to round it up again and get back to Roma.
At Roma, okay.
Yes, carry on.
A different topic. I know, Mr. Mayor, you and I have received an email from a resident in Bayshore Village who is concerned regarding natural gas. And I guess he has been given the delegated powers to reach out to Enbridge and all that through the executive, so he says. So I'm almost wondering whether we should, I know we've met with whatever minister it was to be able to talk about natural gas, but we're sort of coming to a point where I think we need to be there again, pushing for natural gas for Ramara Township.
Councillor Bell, something to add to that? And I'll
Thank you. It's almost as if we were speaking and we weren't. One thing I was going to suggest is, and maybe not, we're not ready for a delegation yet, but I wondered whether we would be able to request having a deputation here at council chambers, which would actually help the public to have a better understanding of the process in determining which communities will receive gas and when. And I think that might go a long way in the meantime to maybe just help some education and understanding among Ramara residents. And then maybe looking at doing that again at Roma with some better understanding and maybe more work on the CIP. That would be my suggestion.
actually, I like that suggestion, to have Enbridge come and do a deputation, but we'll carry on some discussion here. Councillor Fisher, then the deputy mayor.
Thank you. I'm wondering, because we have
Test, test. Can you hear this, Colton?
Are we good? Okay, sorry, we did recess there. We had trouble with our live stream. Close AO Jackson? No, we had trouble with our live stream, so we're now back. So I will go to the deputy mayor now. I think had a comment.
I think the reason we cut these back is because too many times we've gone in and we've overwhelmed ourselves with deputations and our staff doing the work, and we're nowhere near it. I like the idea of having a presentation here. I think we should hold off on adding more deputations unless our staff feel that we're ready to move forward and they have an idea of what's required in those. I just don't want to keep going back saying we want something without a plan. I think we need development. I think we need somebody with a promise to actually build 400 houses for Enbridge or somebody to listen to us. And I think that's what we have to have is some development. So I just don't want to waste our staff's time and our time going to deputations that aren't going to move us forward.
One thing I did like is we would ask for deputation for Enbridge. I don't know if you wanted to tie it to this motion, and a suggestion from Councillor Goff too, that we have staff prepare a report on what we need to do to present to MTO when we get to Roma and to infrastructure for the gas, like to have a plan so that when Roma rolls around, we have something to present to them. So can we tie that to this motion, Madam Clerk? And then
if I can, Your Worship, please, maybe before Ms. Connor replies, certainly what we can do if this is a desire of council is prepare an inquiry motion that would be brought back at the next council meeting to identify specifically what council is looking for in terms of a further report regarding MTO and or asking Enbridge to come and do a deputation. So instead of tying it directly to this particular motion, Mr. Mayor, I would suggest that we take the time to prepare an inquiry motion for the next meeting of council.
everybody okay with that? Seeing nods around the table. Councillor to you.
I just wanted to add further to Councillor Goff's point, there's another high-density neighborhood at Lake Point Village who's been asking since the term began for Enbridge Gas to come in. So that would be really great if we could promote that. Thank you.
Perfect. So why don't we go that direction then? Councillor Fisher.
I still see the value in speaking with the Minister of Energy to find out when that phase funding is open, because that will prepare us when we get to Roma to have a different presentation yet again, because we'll take that feedback that we received from the delegation from the Minister of Energy for the application for phase 3 funding, because we have presented the same thing a few different times, waiting for that phase 3 to open. So I still see the value in requesting a delegation with the Minister of Energy to find out how we can have a better chance at the successful application for phase 3 funding, so that when we get to Roma, we'll have that in place for him to show that we are serious.
What's your feeling, CO Jackson, or is that something we can do through just communications?
Through you, Your Worship, the issue, certainly we can submit a request for further delegation. However, again, we don't have any further information. So it would be basically a bit of a repeat. And if that's where council wishes to head, then that's fine. I would also suggest that we do have opportunities to reach out directly to ask for discussions with ministers, whether we're successful or not, depends on what the issue is and so on. So you don't always necessarily need to go via the delegation process in order to at least submit a request. So really council's desire, we can ask for a further delegation, or once we have more information, we can certainly reach out at that point in time.
Yeah, I would rather wait till we had the file in front of us and all the areas and the mapping, and then we make the, okay, how do we apply? This is our area. I think we have to do our groundwork first. Councillor Fisher.
Right. Well, we have that information. We have a little bit of that information already that we haven't brought forward to the ministers yet. Our former director of infrastructure had worked on some of that. It's finding it and putting it together. It's not until August, so there would be opportunity to not repeat what we have in the past number of times that we've gone in front of the Minister of Energy, but with something new and say, this is what we have. So when we come back to you at Roma, tell us how to polish this up, because we already have this. There has been a change in staffing. So there's been just with passing things back and forth, I think things just have kind of sat on the shelf a little bit, but there is opportunity, I think, to pull that information together to bring that stuff that you want to have. I'm sure a lot of it exists and we can request. I'm sure there's a deadline to request for delegation. And if staff isn't able to find the information that I think exists already, then we withdraw our request.
Okay, so what I'll do is I have the motion. You'd like to add that as amendment. Okay, Gail, do you want to respond and then I'll vote on the amendment?
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor, if I may, certainly the purpose of this particular report is as a result of our previous discussion at council 2 weeks ago, whereby we were asked to report on what the potential delegations could be. This report identifies the two that from a staff perspective, very clearly, we think are really great opportunities to meet with the ministers. At that previous meeting 2 weeks ago, council identified two others, which was the Ombridge and the issue of the contaminated soil. So at this point, we've provided that information. So staff have provided the recommendation in terms of the delegations. Again, if council wishes to go further, I will respectfully indicate to council as well that due to the significant transitions of staff, we need to understand our priorities in terms of what our time is being spent on. And certainly if council believes the priority is getting information gathered regarding this particular issue, then we will certainly do so as directed by council.
Okay, so you would like to see it added. You would move that. Do you have a seconder? Second by Councillor Goff to add Minister of Energy to the, all in favor? All opposed? Okay, I'll need to call the vote again. All in favor? I have 4. All right, so it has been added. Yeah. So we'll have to try and get some. So what the request is we want to know what we need to provide if we're going for the next phase 3 of the funding. So then try and gather up what information we have and ask them how we can tailor make our presentation. Okay. So on the motion as amended, all in favor? No. No. Enbridge here? No, that'll be a separate discussion coming later. So all in favor of the motion as amended, which is the main motion on the floor now. But we're including now Minister of Energy. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So next I have the Planning Services Tender Award. Madam Clerk.
That report BP 1925 be received and that we contract with DM Wills Associates for planning services for the township beginning on May 27, 2025, and that the successful bidders be so advised.
Okay, moved by Councillor Bell, second by Councillor Goff. Questions on the tender? Councillor Bell.
Thank you. Through the chair, I do have a question for planning, if I might. I noted that Netherly was the second contender, and the report seems to indicate they would be a good choice. They've been in business 17 plus years. They're local, and one of the things that I appreciated when I took a look at their website is they highlight engagement and facilitation, and they say from public meetings to intricate communication plans, we excel in rallying community support and establishing a respectful environment for difficult discussions. And that particularly stood out for me. Engagement is, of value to me. So I guess I'm hoping, can you help us understand why you recommend how you do?
Wally.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Through your worship to the councillor to answer the question. It was actually a difficult decision. We did look at it. We do have in-house communication staff that we use for communication. The engagement portion is legislated through the Planning Act, and there's procedures that we have to follow. So the engagement process that anyone would do would follow that same engagement process. And we'd like to use as much staff resources as possible when we are. The second thing was we are aggregate heavy municipality, and DM Wills has a much higher expertise in aggregate, and we have active applications now, and ones that we know that are coming. Also, the pricing structure was on the surface. It would appear that there would be a savings, but we don't use the principal planner as much as we use the senior planner, and the senior planner cost is considerably less. And again, we do a lot of the work in-house, so we do more planning support than planning contracting out. So in the end of the day, it does become more financially efficient, and we have resources available to us should we need them through them and through our own administration.
Councillor Bell? Yep.
Thank you. I guess the one piece of it too that I found interesting is that we have someone local, and I just is there some value? I understand what you're saying with aggregates and other, but I just wonder if there's some value to having someone local that's familiar with our neighborhoods and our communities. Could you just speak to that piece of it?
Absolutely. We have a good local resource also internally. A lot of our staff live in the community, are in the community, or actively engaged in the community. So we feel that that is already covered and didn't make a difference in the decision.
Questions? Yep. No, I kind of had very similar, so thank you for that. So on the motion, everybody's fine now, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So department reports, Madam Clerk.
The report BP 1825 titled Report Recommendation Township of Ramara Official Plan 2025 be received, and that the Township of Ramara Official Plan 2025 be forwarded to the June 2nd, 2025 council meeting for adoption.
Moved by Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Fisher. Questions or comments on the official plan? Big document. Councillor Bell.
Just can we burst into a round of applause?
Yeah, we finally got there. Yeah, it's 2003 was the old one, I think. Again, keep in mind that one sat 9 years at an OMB hearing before it was finally approved through county. So no fault of our own. So finally, any other? Councillor Fisher.
I'm seeing that it's on the agenda to receive as information. Is there a reason why we're not receiving and adopting today? Like, I recognize it's a big document, but why is it being forwarded to our next meeting as opposed to putting it at the end of this meeting?
I don't think it's time sensitive. We're at the committee of the whole, and that'll give the public time to say, okay, we've now received it through committee. So if they have any changes, I would assume.
I do believe, your worship, that is a requirement. It's a 3-step process, and this is the second step of the third step.
Yeah. So then the next one will be a given time, and then the public can have their input.
Yeah, not that I can speak for everybody in the community, but I think there are a lot of people who are excited just to get this passed so they can move forward with their own, their own projects.
One thing I tell everybody, take a look at the maps, check out your zoning, see what your property looks like, what your zoning is, if there's any surprises in there. Now is the time to come forward. Okay, any other questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed of any? One opposed. Thank you. That is carried. Next, I have the recommendation report, part lock control exemption.
The report BP 1725 titled Recommendation Report Part Lot Control Exemption Lot 4 Plan 51M-451 99 Simcoe Road be received, and that the draft Part Lot Control Exemption bylaw be forwarded to the June 2nd, 2025 council meeting to be enacted.
This is the one from the public meeting we had here on 99 Simcoe Road. So could I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Goff, second by Councillor Bell. Questions or comments? The bylaw, not seeing any. All in favor? That is carried. Opposed? Seeing none. Thank you. Lakeshore Drive Lagoon City Servicing, rather wordy motion.
They report ID 1825 be received, and that staff recommend the township enter into a contract with KJ Excavating Inc. in the amount of $2,316,689, including non-recoverable HST to install a low-pressure sanitary sewer on Maple Trail, Lone Birch, Ridge Avenue, and Simcoe Road, and that Tatum Engineering provide construction administration in the amount of $210,000, and that a 15% contingency allowance in the amount of $372,993 be approved for miscellaneous unforeseen expenditures, and that property owners receiving this upgrade to the collection system be required to pay their appropriate share of the projection costs, and that property owners must connect within a 3-year period from substantial completion of the project, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the contract agreement on behalf of the township.
All right, I'll put it on the floor and then we'll have a discussion on it. Moved by Councillor Goff, second by Councillor Fisher. I actually have concerns going forward at this time. When we started this process a couple of years ago, even our finances, we were figuring we were going to self-finance this. And then, but now the money will have to be borrowed. You're looking at about a 6%, but it also ties up the municipal's borrowing capability. Whenever we borrow money for these projects, even though it's flow through money that's paid back to us by the individuals, it ties up how much we're allowed to borrow. And I look at, we're proceeding with the Bay Shore Village project, and then there's a Lagoon City upgrade required at the treatment plant down here in the next couple of years as well. And again, we're going to have to finance, and I'm a little concerned with tying up our borrowing ability for the amount of customers that we're gaining on this. I don't think we're going to see a big windfall on the intake side. Again, I realize it's flow through money, but at 6% is not when we started this process. So that's my feeling. I wouldn't support it and I wouldn't proceed at all, but that's my opinion. I'll look around the room. Deputy Mayor.
I have an issue with this too. I think that if anything, we have to go back out to the public for public consultation. I think we need to go back to the exact number it's going to cost them, and it has to be a majority want this before we push this down on them. I think we're seeing some uneasy times. Steel mills have shut down. Factories are laying off shifts. I think people are very cognizant of their money, and we need to be very careful about how we tap into people's reserves right now. So I think we need to be conscious of that.
Okay. Councillor Bell, then Councillor Nutch.
Thank you. I actually have a couple of different questions. One's procedural, and because the original motion that we carried back in January, and I'm not for or against, this is not a for or against thing, this is just procedural question. When we carried the motion, we approved both, and that was the structure of the motion. The structure wasn't that we were looking at tendering, the structure was that we approved. So if, I guess we would, I want to make sure that we just procedurally do it properly. So if we weren't to move forward, then we would need to actually rescind or repeal that original motion, I think, because it does read that we approve both the Lakeshore Drive servicing as well as what we're now calling the Lagoon City servicing. And that was my second thing. We broke it into two projects, which is okay. But I just think for communication, the project was always called Lakeshore Drive servicing, even previous to my joining council in 22. So I think now that it's separated into two, it would make sense moving forward if that's going to be the case, that it's identified as two separate projects, and so that residents can follow the change. So that those are just procedural items. I did also have a question because it references the water servicing strategy for Lagoon City, Breck, and South Ramara water systems. But I don't believe that we've actually received that report. And I know the decision to look at South Ramara water system arose in 2021. So again, that was before this term. And so I think not only for council's sake, but also the residents who are impacted or potentially impacted, particularly down at South Ramara coming north, there are quite a few residents in that area that are very anxious for water. Those are the folks that can't get it out of wells and that sort of thing. So I'm not sure why we haven't seen that report, and I'm hoping that it will be forthcoming. I guess those are I have others, but I don't know if anybody wants to respond to those before I.
Well, I can respond to some of them, and then I'll look to the director for the other. Yeah, as far as like proceeding the tender, we did agree to tender them as separate projects. That was in the original agreement when we went to tender. And again, now we're here. We either accept the tender or we don't. And this is when we make the decision whether to proceed or not. So we reject the tender, the project doesn't go ahead. Go ahead, Laura.
Through you, Mr. Chair. That is correct. So without understanding the original proposal, the project was just divided into two parts, so that if there was one part that would proceed without the other, we had that ability to. If we priced it as one whole, then there was no ability to proceed if it was not passed. In regards to the water servicing strategy, we are in communications with the consultants, Tatham, who is here today as well, to be able to answer any questions if we have them. And we're in communications with them. Those reports are received. It's not, we're happy to bring that forward at the next CIP if that is what council would like us to do. We generally get reports that help inform our technical decision-making that aren't necessarily shared, but which we can definitely pass that on if council would like.
Supplementary?
No, that's good. No, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think it's just, I appreciate the clarity on how it became two different projects. It just helps in communicating with residents. I do have others, but I can see Councillor Fisher has something too. Mine are going to be a little bit different.
All right, Councillor Fisher.
Maybe I think that we need to continue having this discussion, but I'm wondering if we should defer making a decision on this until we receive some of the information that we're seeking for, including engagement, because I think if we deny this right now, then we don't have an opportunity until next calendar year. If we are looking for more public input by way of surveys or whatever, the reports that Councillor Bell is seeking for from staff. So I'm wondering if maybe defer making a decision on this motion as it's written.
What's the deadline on the tender, Laura?
So the pricing is held for 60 days. It closed on April 12th. We've been trying to figure out what the best foot forward is for this report. And so we do need to have a decision ratified by the June 2nd meeting because the deadline will be June 12th. So we do need to have a decision or this pricing will become null and void and the tender will be essentially canceled at that point.
Councillor Stutz, and then I'll go back to Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So dividing the two up, I've just for council to consider, as far as Lakeshore Drive goes, I think it's been spoken loud and clear that the majority of the people don't want it. And I've always said that I will not support it unless it's a large majority. But I think there's been questions about the information that we've collected. So part of me thinks we should just basically agree to this and shut down the Lakeshore expansion. The other part of me sort of says maybe we should just defer it and go back out. But every time we go back out and get opinions, people always question whether that's like, I don't know if we have a way of going out and getting the actual information from the people because people just don't respond. So we did this and we said, well, the majority agrees. And then all of a sudden, then we've got a presentation that there's only 10 people on the street in Lakeshore that want this. So obviously it's a very small number of people. We're here to look after the majority. So that's my situation as far as Lakeshore. But I think the residents want us to put this to an end. So I have I'm open. I want other councillors to say, do we go back out one more time? And so when the other residents, the 10 that want it, we can actually say that there was only 10 people that wanted it. And that sort of ends the discussion. As far as the other part B, I don't have any information that the majority wants it there either. And maybe we should go out. I think it's going to be a very small minority. And I'm really not sure what benefit the township gains when all these people already have septic systems in place. And all the other points that the mayor brought up about tying up our borrowing and things like that. So in conclusion, I'm prepared to turn both down today, or I'm prepared to defer and have us go back out to the public and get some real numbers that we can support our decision to the public and the residents in the future.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you. So, and I would top up on that. I would agree that the folks on the Lakeshore Drive servicing component were not prepared at this time. And I think that has to do with changes that have occurred. And we've recognized that, you know, we're facing 8 and 13% increases on water sewer. So at the time that we made the decision in January of 23, that information was not known. So the public couldn't have made a decision based on those numbers. And so on the service on the Lakeshore aspect, I do think that the best course of action right now is to defer that piece. And probably the recommendation in the report speaks to water sewer when it does happen. And I think that would be more likely to happen if funding were available to help make it happen. That being said, we do know that taking private septic systems away from proximity to the lake is of deep concern as well. So I wouldn't say it's shelved and put away forever, but certainly I can see waiting on that aspect of it. As far as the Lagoon City servicing piece, so the sewer only piece, I have had contact from residents over the last few days who would be impacted by that. That piece did have a higher percentage of approval at the time. Those residents who have contacted me are still very much in support. I have, though, I will say in the last 2 years, had contact from residents not in support. So I would probably agree that if there were any way that we could reach out to those particular households between now and June 2nd and get a real sense of, do they actually want to proceed at this time? And again, some of those residents have raised the concern about septics close to the lake. So and also, until we do the sewer, we aren't going to be fixing their road, which has been in very, very poor repair for a number of years. So there are a few different considerations to look at here. So I guess I'd be looking to staff, to the CAO to find out, is there a way that we can reach out to these folks as soon as later today with some sort of a letter registered if it had to be, to determine, do you really want us to proceed so that we can make that decision with the best information available to us on June 2nd?
Thank you. Again, the Lakeshore, the water project was controversial at best. It's come in over budget. I just don't see any way we pursue it at all at this time. Now, again, these are shovel-ready projects now. So if grant money's announced, and I remember when the folks were here, yeah, if we can find grant money, that's a game changer. So we now have 2 shovel-ready projects that could be there if grants are announced. And I would expect the federal government should be announcing grants here in the short term. They're going to want to, at some point, beef up our economy. Again, the suggested motion is to proceed with the sewer project, and I'm again not in favor at this time. I just think it's the cost. Go ahead, Councillor Goff.
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Mayor, but I realize that when this project first came to light, it's unfortunate that it's dragged on so long, thus increasing the cost. But there was, as Councillor Bell said, a very strong majority of people along Maplegate Ridge Road. Part of the Ridge Road has municipal water already, and I couldn't believe that all of it wasn't covered with municipal sewer services. And actually getting houses along Lone Birch Trail off of septic services or holding tanks, it actually allows for some of those smaller cottages. People are holding on to not building because there's not enough room. So having the ability to hook up to municipal sewer services actually opens up a lot more of their property to be able to build houses that instead of cottages now become homes.
Okay.
So I'm okay with
the suggested motion.
With the suggested motion. And I understand your reasonings about the budget, but if we don't do it right now, we do it a year from now, 2 years from now, that cost is only going to keep on going up. This project has been talked about for, I don't know, 10, 12, 14 years, and everybody keeps on holding off on it. And the price just keeps on going up.
Okay, Councillor Tuyu, haven't heard from you.
Thank you. I guess on behalf of the Climate Action Committee, I have a question for our Director of Building and Planning. What from all of the septic inspections, what's sort of the lay of the land over there in terms of how bad are they or crumbling that infrastructure? My concern is always for the water.
Wally.
Through your worship to Councillor Tuyu, yeah, the failure rate or the stress rate was very, very low, especially for Lakeshore. That particular area, there's actually quite a few units on actual holding tanks as well. So they're very limited even by the discharge into the area. So.
Follow up? Yes. No. Councillor Fisher.
Oh, I didn't realize my mic was still on that whole time. My apologies. Okay, so trying to figure out how to word this well. We've heard from both. I guess my concern is, okay, so you're saying that this is a shovel-ready project, but the way that this motion is written right now, should council not support it, does this mean that we've also now taken it off the table moving forward for applying for the different grants because it is a shovel-ready project? I'm still in favor of deferring it to get a bit more information. I recognize that it might change the pricing, even if we go back out. There's been a lot of money invested already into reports from Tatum, from our staff. There's been a lot of money that's already been invested for the past umpteen years. Councillor Goff had mentioned that this started being talked about 12 or 14 years ago, and 12 or 14 years ago, the costs were only a couple $1,000s for laterals, and it's now going to be much more, even though we don't have those numbers. And the longer we defer this, the more it's going to cost. I'm also, there's always a concern, will the province just come down and say, you have capacity, do it? And we're going to be forced to be doing this regardless. I understand that might open up some more revenue streams from the provinces as well. I don't know that I'm ready to make a decision on this today. I would much rather defer this, get some more information from staff, with reports on how they decided to make their decisions, and maybe even separated it even to more parts, recognizing that these tenders might expire.
Well, yeah, again, not approving the tender does not say we're never doing the project. So it's still viable if grant money were to come in. Because yeah, if you're to vote that we never proceed, well, now you've killed the project, right? No, we're just not letting the tender. So then the project can sit there as a shovel ready, waiting for grant money. My suggestion, and if you're looking for information, would be approve it today. And then again, it's not going to get its final approval today. It's going to come back in the next meeting, and any concerned citizens can also make a deputation at that time prior to council ratifying. It would be my suggestion for anybody wanting more information. Councillor Snudge, Councillor Tullio, Councillor Bell, lots of discussion on the thing, and the deputy mayor.
Maybe we should just amend this to say that these projects will be paused until funding is available and the township has received concrete evidence that the majority of the residents on the street support the project. That way we'd have it, we'd sort of, anybody who comes and asks, say, as soon as the majority of the people want it, as soon as there's funding available, we can come out with lower costs. But until then, it's basically parked.
Who did I have next? I think I had Councillor Tullio, was it? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
Should roll it down.
I guess my question through you, Mr. Mayor, is to staff on what kind of logistics are we looking at in terms of getting any kind of resident feedback for whether this is something they would want before the price deadline of June 2nd, having this ratified?
It would be today, we'd have to advertise it, and then the folks would do a deputation prior to, at our next council meeting, June 2nd. You would expect to see the deputations come in. Councillor Bell? And then the
Thank
deputy
you.
mayor.
And I think the other thing that we have to consider too is, as Councillor Fisher is raising, is the cost. And so each time we have moved this along down the road, that cost is sitting inside the debt that is being carried right now, which is driving the 8 and 13% increases as well. So I think we have to be cognizant that each time we do this, we're just continually adding to that ever mounting debt. And as it stands today, there are expenses that are already not included in it at that 8 and 13. So we can expect to see that modified again. It doesn't include the archaeological assessment, for example. So I think we have to be cognizant. And so I think there's a little bit more that we're begging here, which is, you know, a real strategy where whether that's county, whether that's whatever it is we're looking at, but to continue to defer and then not have kind of an ability to bring a larger solution that solves our water and sewer. I mean, I think we need to just be cognizant of that mounting debt. And again, you know, I do know that there are people in the Lagoon City servicing aspect that are very much in favor of bringing this forward for both reasons, or three, really. I mean, it is the property, it's the sewer itself, and then it's also the road, which is really truly broken up. It's undrivable. So how much longer, you know? So I think, yeah, if we defer this piece, and so the motion is amended so that we separate things and we say we're going to hold on the water until funding is available, but that we defer the sewer portion until June 2nd so that we can do some engagement. That's maybe the recommendation I have.
Deputy mayor.
I was really wanting to defend it. So I have nothing to add to that except for that we should be, and maybe just stop. You know, Andrew, did you or Laura want to speak on this and how you came to that decision? Maybe we need to hear from you before we make a final decision.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. So I think there's a number of reasons why we look at this. One, it's been on the books for a long, long time. And environmentally, it is the friendly way to go. We are on the lake. Ultimately, out of the 82 properties, 26 of them, I believe, if my numbers are correct, 26 are on holding tanks. Holding tanks are obviously a challenge because they need to be pumped frequently. So I would say to our councillors that those people are probably the ones that would love to see the source go in. From the perspective of the septics, they range anywhere from I think the oldest was older than 50 years, 1972, I believe, so it's about 53 years. Septic systems typically are 20 to 40 year life cycle. If you treat them well, they should be 40. 20 is the one that is a lower end, but ultimately, there's a lot of them that are getting very close to their 30 to 40 year range as well. So the reason we recommended, or I recommended, I guess, ultimately, and the Director of Infrastructure agreed. Ultimately, we recommended it more from an environmental standpoint, from the fact that council had directed us to go and get the pricing, to look at the pricing. Ultimately, the water did not feel like a project we wanted to do without the sewer happening at the same time. And ultimately, from our perspective, we were at somewhat of a cross because we are actually taking a loan to do this work as well. So it's one of those things that I think from the infrastructure standpoint, we could sit on the fence. Environmentally, I think it's the right thing. From a cost perspective, it may not be at this point in time. So I know that doesn't give you a clear answer, but certainly.
Supplementary. Yep.
Supplementary. Thank you through your chair. I guess there's no point in doing one of the other projects. You want to see both at the same time, just cost efficiency, running both lines together.
Through your worship, my thought was if you were doing Lakeshore, you should be doing the sewer on Lakeshore as well. That was not part of the request. But from this perspective, we do have water on this area, so we would be filling in with sewer. They have full complement of service. If nothing else, that would be, you've got a full complement of service. People are paying for water, they're paying for sewer, and it's, those 81 properties come out to about 7% of our actual connections if you add them on. That being said, we are also looking at potential EAs for the plants. Do you go ahead and start adding more services when you're doing an EA to potentially look at upgrading plants? It's a toss-up at this point. But there has been a lot of money spent on this ultimately. And certainly, I believe the water side should not be done on Lakeshore for a number of reasons which are in the report. But ultimately, if you're planning to do it in the future, I would recommend that you design the sewer as well and do them both.
And what are the chances we'd see grant money for this kind of a project? I know that you don't have a glass globe and you can't see the future, but just a gut feeling. What does your gut tell you?
Through your worship, and I may ask the director to comment as well. I think there's potential for grant funding with this new health and safety grant that is out there. I believe there could be potential, especially for the sewer side, because of the fact that we are on the lake. There's a number of properties that are in that 30-year range for septic systems, and a third of them are on holding tanks. So ultimately, I believe from a health and safety perspective, it could well be one that we would look forward to moving with. Whether we would be approved, I guess, is the question. So,
Laura, anything you want to add?
Yes, thank you through your worship. So the grants, yeah, we don't have a crystal ball. We can hope that, again, to spur the economy as we are going into some difficult times here, we do tend to see funding for infrastructure projects. So having more shovel-ready projects means that we're more likely to have a successful application. So we are cognizant of that at this time. And truly with this project, as Mr. Shell had said, is that the lakeshore water, we feel that budgetary, the desire from the residents, all of those pieces, it really doesn't make sense at this time. It doesn't mean that we can't look at that project again in the future. But for the sewer side, that's why it's recommended here, is that at the end of the day, it does make sense to do it. We just need to know that it's worthwhile for the investment for the residents at the end of the day, because they are carrying the cost, excluding the road rehabilitation work, those residents who are impacted will be carrying those costs. And it is a range at this point because there's so many unknowns. Again, looking at the project costs, until we know what that end project looks like and we can lock into that borrowing scenario, we won't know what those end costs are. But that's where we're truly looking at it from.
Counselor, holy crap, Counselor Fisher, and then I'll come back this way again.
I just want to point out the one thing that was discussed was, reach out to find out, and I'm all for that, finding out, but hearing to make sure that the majority of residents want this, because the last time we didn't know that the majority wanted this. Of the residents that responded, there was a majority that did want this out of the people that responded. And I know one should never assume, but out of the residents that didn't respond one way or another, that may have been a choice. So it's really hard to say. Usually you hear from people who are unhappy about decisions long before you hear about the people who are happy about the decisions that we make.
Counselor Bell.
My question is just for informational purposes for listeners as well. When we talk about shovel ready, is there an expiration date to shovel ready? Can you explain that?
I guess EA's expired, but Laura, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So if there's an environmental assessment, that's part of that. There's generally I believe it's 5-year, depends on the EA on how long it'll take. You can apply for renewals for those. If there's significant changes to legislative requirements, you'd have to do an update to that EA. But for having the design ready, again, if there's changes in practices or codes during that time, you might have to do some slight updates. But if it's between 5 and 10 years, generally the industry doesn't change that fast. So,
okay, Counselor Goff.
If we were to move forward with the sewage part of this, how long before we actually have construction started?
this is to award the tender. Once we start the tender, we'll be able to start and go through that process. We'll be starting construction as soon as possible. So it would be later this year that it would be started.
So you're thinking probably, my understanding, it's always been a late fall sort of thing where we would be able to.
Andrew, can you help us out there on?
Yes, through your worship. So ultimately, and I'm looking at our consultant, Mr. Laking, for confirmation, but we have 5 days that we can submit back to our contractor. And they will then in turn start ramping up their service. We were told roughly 20 weeks for this project to occur, and we will have the top coat of asphalt done before the end of the year. In the spring, once we've seen whatever settling tends to happen, we'll put our second and final coat on. So it will be virtually happening within, I'd say, 2 to 4 weeks. You'll start to see the contractor there in order for it to be done this year. And if I could also follow up just on one thing, Your Worship. If the sewer does not occur, I've heard quite a bit of talk about the actual road surface. And indeed, the road surface is bad in areas. So ultimately, one thing to kind of put your mind to think about is if we're putting this off to just be a shovel-ready project, do we actually do the road? Because you don't want to rip the road up that's brand new after a year or 2 or 3. So I don't mean to throw another challenge out there for you, but the thought of if we don't do the project, I think the department would have to think about how we upgrade the road to a degree, at least to have it manageable for the next year or 2 until we do the project.
Thank you. All the discussions got me considering it now. So because there's so many factors that we've kind of pushed the road off to get this project done. And I do remember the folks that were here. You know, you always hear from the ones that don't want it. We were hearing from the ones that actually wanted the sewer portion. They were adamant. They still wanted this project. Go ahead. Councillor Snutch, his hand up, and then I'll go back to you, Joe.
Just for a clarification, Andrew. So this is going to cost between 40 and 55,000 per resident. Or per property. That's what the report says.
For our costs. Go ahead.
Through you, that is the estimated cost per property, including the cost to do the work and the financing costs that the township will incur for that project.
But not the cost to borrow to tap it into their actual home.
Correct. So from the property line into the house, and this is a low pressure system, so they'll be required to put a pump in as well. All of that cost is in addition to what
which is about $10,000 if I remember.
It really depends on the property and where they're connecting.
And how far back it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're really looking at 50 to 65,000. Now, when we went out and surveyed the people in the beginning, did we include an estimate to them on what it was going to cost for sewer?
I believe that there were some ranges of costs included with that original communication, and I believe this is higher than those communications, so.
Okay, so does anyone here know what the correspondence was that went out to the residents and asked them if they were in favor of installing the sewer on these streets?
Andrew.
Through you, your worship, there was an actual send out by previous staff, and there was a report back to council on the number of people that were in agreement, as well as the number that weren't. The report does state, and I actually made note from the previous report that it was not as well provided. It was roughly 50 some percent that actually responded. And of that 50 some percent, there was really only 50 some percent that said yes. So.
I think it was 56%.
So do we know what number they were given though, is that what the estimate cost was?
So
was it the 50 to 65 or was it the 25,000 or some other number? Does anybody have that information? Dana, it looks like you looked it up first.
I did. Based on the preliminary cost estimate, the cost to each property owner would be $39,500. This cost is based on dividing the total construction costs by the number of benefiting properties being located on both sides of the roads. Additional costs to each property owner would also include installation of private piping from road to house, $5,000 to $12,000, decommissioned septic system, $2,500, and those are estimated.
So that means that the information we sent out originally is pretty accurate. Yeah. No, out by $500 on the low end. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Goff, Councillor Bell, then Councillor Fisher.
Actually, I would like to see us support this motion the way it is moving forward. We have time and it's not coming back to council on June 2nd. But I think we need to get this started. It seems that the majority, there are still a few stragglers that may not want to proceed with the sewage part of it, but it seems just based on what I'm seeing from around the table here. And Mr. Mayor, you're even sitting on the fence
You
now,
convinced me.
right? That we should move forward with this. So that's what I recommend.
Councillor Bell and then Fisher, and then I'll call the vote.
Yeah, thank you. And I guess I would say too, just so that all of council knows, that the outreach that I received was this weekend. So it is very recent, and it is from a member of the community on that street who is generally a community leader, and brought me the information that yes, the majority still wants to proceed. So I mean, again, that's one person, but I think if we have over the course of this week and we put out social media and all the things that could maybe drive some participation before next week, that's good. And then I guess the final thing I have is, and this is not specific to the tender, but to the project itself, there have been questions about project tracking. And then, so the portion that would be funded by the municipality versus the portion that's funded by each resident. And just when we looked back at the Bay Shore Village Class Environmental Assessment, for example, we don't know the cost. We weren't able to break down the cost very well from previous years. So I have received questions about, what kind of project management tracking would we be able to look at so that residents can actually understand the overall cost of the project. So I don't know that you'll have the answer right now today to that question, but just a consideration as it moves forward to be able to show exactly what those costs are to consumers and non-consumers.
And Councillor Fisher.
I just want to close off this before you call the vote, that while we were sitting here having discussions, I've received text messages from residents saying, this meeting is killing me. Please tell me we're getting sewers.
All right, well, okay, Counselor Snodgrass, and then I'll call the vote.
I still think it needs to be amended for the Lakeshore part that the project is ongoing until two things happen. One, that additional funding can be, or grants can be attained, and that if we ever get to the point where we have 50%, and that's not just a petition, that's somebody signing something that says they want it, and if they can't get enough signatures or enough papers, then we don't go ahead. But I think that needs to be amended here. And as far as Lakeshore goes, I don't have enough confidence with only a 50% response that it's really wanted. I know there's individual situations, but there's still 56 people that don't have holding tanks. That we really don't know which 56 of them responded and which ones didn't respond to the survey. So I don't see what the harm is to go back out and get an accurate number. We're supposed to represent the people, not guess to what the people want. So I think it needs to be amended, but I'll only bring that forward if the rest of council wants to go along with it.
So what would your amendment be?
My amendment would be the Lakeshore project would be deferred until grants are available and the township receives concrete evidence that 50% or more of the properties are in support of the project.
Okay, Lakeshore being the water one or this one, the sewer one?
No, sorry. I'm talking about Lakeshore being the water one.
Oh, well, okay, it's not even being recommended at this time. So
No, I know it's not
I don't
being
want to add
recommended.
it to this motion. I keep it clean. If you want a separate motion after, we could look at that, is what I would suggest. Because now you might.
So you're saying for Lakeshore for the water, if by approving this, it's dead.
It's a project that's been engineered. We're just not releasing a tender. So it's in park mode. So we can apply for grants. We can do whatever we want. It's still alive.
Okay.
It's just not, because if you pass a motion that it's dead, then we can't even apply for grants. I mean, it's gone. Councillor Bell, just.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's part of this notion that it's been separated into two projects. I understand that the tender itself too, as well, is separated into two projects. So could we start carrying motions based on Lakeshore Drive servicing versus Lagoon City servicing so that the motions are in line with the two different pieces of the project, just for clarity? And also it would help us to be able to find language to build this amendment that says we're holding on to Lakeshore Drive now, and then deferring the decision on Lagoon City servicing until June 2nd. Like those would be two separate pieces to it, as I think what I'm hearing. But I think if we call the projects appropriately from this point forward as two different projects, it will help a greater understanding among council and among stakeholders.
Yeah, I've been calling this one the Ridge Road is what I've always called it.
All
It's a sewer project. So good discussion on the motion that's on the floor. All in favor? Opposed?
I'm sorry, I just didn't get my hand up.
Oh, yeah, it's carried. It is carried. Yeah. So I'll do the tax bill and then we'll take a break if everybody's okay with that. Or do you have an amendment? I would suggest to Lakeshore, we just leave it alone at this point because it's sitting there waiting for grants. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
actually, we got the recommendation from staff that if we're going to proceed with water, it should be water and
Right.
sewer. So it's
Together. Yeah, together.
Sorry, thank you. It's just on the motion though, the project is still being called Lakeshore Drive and Lagoon City servicing. And then in the motion that we're carrying, we're only addressing Lakeshore Drive servicing. So I guess that's what I'm saying, like, can we?
No, Lagoon City servicing.
Or sorry, yeah, Lagoon City, now I'm
Yeah.
saying it wrong. Lagoon City servicing. So the motion is not actually saying that what we're carrying is Lagoon City servicing. Do you know what I mean? Like it's naming the roads, but it's only naming one half of the project. And so I just feel like if we can, because this could end up being 3 years from now, next term, when the actual Lakeshore Drive servicing project comes back, right? So what we're saying right now is that we're going to proceed with Lagoon City servicing, but we're not going to proceed with Lakeshore Drive servicing. So I just think the motion should be amended to make it so that there's clarity that one project is moving forward and the other project is.
No, I want to be very careful. We did not pass a motion to say we're not proceeding. I don't want to do that because I want to keep it on the books as an open project. What we're doing is letting the tender for the sewer project. That's what the motion was.
That's correct. So all we're looking for here is to award the tender. We're only awarding the portion of the tender that is the Lagoon City servicing as delineated by the road descriptions there. So.
Yep. And
That
it's,
is the part B of that.
and
title.
it is in the suggested motion. You'll see that it's to install low pressure sanitary sewer. That is what we're approving. So it's, and that was carried. So if everybody's fine, I'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the tax bill. Mano has concerns.
So I just
Yes.
want to, sorry, I just want to back up. So the Ridge Road project
Yes.
is 100% go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's got to be ratified in 2 weeks of
Yeah,
council.
okay.
Or 1 week, I guess, 1 week. So, yeah.
So if any of the residents there wanted to stop the project, they'd have to go out and get 50% proof
Or-
of the project to us to make us want to reconsider.
Convince council through a deputation.
Yeah.
why it wouldn't be
Okay.
on it. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Counselor Bell, clarification, then we'll move on.
Just, yeah, all I was asking for is just where the motion says, including non-recoverable H to install low pressure sanitary sewer on Maple Trail, Lone Bridge Trail, Ridge Up. I was just asking, can that just be modified to say, to move forward with Lagoon City Servicing to install a low pressure, just so that we identify the projects for the communication, and so that when the Lakeshore Drive comes back as a separate thing, we all, even if it is, I mean, it could be 2 councils from now. So I just wouldn't like the project histories to be lost. And so it's just a point of clarification that says what we're moving forward with is part B, which is Lagoon City Servicing. So it's really just adding 4 words to the motion. That's all I'm really asking for clarity.
What were they?
Your worship, if I may.
Yeah. Yes.
The motion has been moved, so you are not able to amend the motion after the fact. So the
Yeah.
motion has been moved and it has been seconded and it has been carried. If the council member wishes to make an amendment, they can do so at the June 2nd meeting. That would be my recommendation in order to have any wording changes made at that point in time. And if I can, your worship, just in terms of further communication, what we would be doing is certainly doing some social media posts. We'll let the public know that this report is available for their review and that they can certainly submit any correspondence to council that they wish in terms of either support of the project or not in support of the project. And just in terms of clarification, what we would be doing is suggesting if they do wish to approach council, they could do so via the open public forum process as opposed to the deputation process, just because of the timing. This meeting is actually, the agenda deadline is noon today. So an open public forum process would still enable the public to participate and share their views with council next Monday.
Okay, thank you. So we have a direction. So now I will move on to the tax bills.
That we receive report TR 0325 as information.
Mano, anything you want to add? I mean, we've all read it, but concerning, yeah. Okay, yeah, moved by Counselor Goss, second by Counselor Bell. It is now on the floor. Go ahead, Mano.
So with the current situation, staff is working business as usual, meaning the tax bills are have been printed and they're being mailed today. This could have been a CIP in the current situation, but at the time I wrote this report, we didn't know if there was going to be a strike, so I wanted it discussed at this council in case we needed to come up with a different scenario. But as of now, it's business as usual. And so tax bill should be in the mail early this week. And so it's a good place to share this information so that if taxpayers don't receive their tax bill, they are aware they are mailed, so they can call and request a copy or ask for more information. So as of now, everything is as normal.
It's the same as your hydro bill or your credit card bills that still do, whether you get the notice or not, and you will be charged interest. That's just the world we live in. Counselor Fisher.
Thank you. I'm wondering if we can maybe add to this motion then with something like in staff procedures direction, and perhaps that direction could be this is the second risk of unsettlement within Canada Post in a very short period of time. So maybe we need to come up with a solution so that we're not having decisions to be made last minute for our staff and not just with our taxes, but just in general as an alternative way to get a hold of residents outside of standard snail mail. If maybe there's a policy or a program that they can come up with. I don't know if that's a solution or not.
No.
So I don't have numbers in front of me, but our tax inquiry clerk has been working really hard at getting people to sign up for e-billing. but we can't force people. So it is a service that we offer, and but people need to sign up for this. But it's something we've been pushing for a few years, and she's making really good progress with the e-billing, and it just ensure that tax bill are actually received faster, like through email instead of Canada Post.
Councillor Fisher.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's amazing to hear. Maybe it could be that we push communications out this week about signing up and the importance of, and maybe it's time for a good communication blast again about signing up for alertables, signing up for all the things that we try to have our residents go to, and just maybe create communication for that.
Gail.
Thanks, Your Worship. Absolutely, Councillor Fisher, and our new manager of communications starts with us on Monday, June the 2nd, and I will ensure that this is added to her list of things to do to consider maybe different options and opportunities for doing further communications with respect to signing up. So certainly leave that with us. No council motion is required, and I'll ensure that our new manager has this top of mind.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you. Just to top up as well through you to the CAO. I wonder about doing clinics every now and again where residents can come into the township offices and have somebody here that can walk them through the process of signing up, whether it's for e-billing or other township communications. Because I find we have done that in locally in Lagoon City at times. I think it was 2 years ago in 23, Miss Watson came in and spent some time with folks, and that I found to be really quite helpful. So just a suggestion of something that we might be able to do here at the offices.
Getting the nod.
Absolutely, Your Worship. We can certainly look at that, and what we'd probably do is maybe look at our friends at the library as well to perhaps assist. So leave that with us, and we'll ensure that, again, that's on the list of things.
Councillor Snodge.
Going back 4 or 5 years ago, we did bring it forefront to the council that we wanted we wanted as many people signing up. And at that point, I believe we were getting a report every 3 months. And for some reason that sort of stopped. But I would like to get that back to the point that every 3 months we know. And right now, do we know what percentage of the residents are on e-billing right now? Is it 10, 20% or 30?
I don't have that numbers. It's something.
Can that be provided to council at the next
Absolutely.
meeting or something? Or
Yes.
Just an update or on the CIP is working good. Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so all in favor of receiving? That is carried. So we will take a break now before we reconvene as council. Yes?
I'd like to pass the motion though before we,
Okay, you'd like
Come out
to
of
pass the
committee?
motion to
Thank
reconvene?
you.
All right, perfect.
that the committee of the whole do now rise and that council be reconvened at 10:55 a.m. and that the recommendations of committee of the whole be referred to the next regular council meeting of council to be held on June 2nd, 2025, with the exception of the following items, which shall be referred to the consent agenda later today. Report AD 1125, AMO delegations. Report BP 1925, planning services tender award.
So only the planning tender is the one we're doing. Moved by Councillor Goff, second by the deputy mayor, that we now rise. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, we'll take a break. How long do you want? So 10:10, we'll come back. 10:10 is, or 11:10, sorry. Is that enough time for the clerks for everything that's? Yep, perfect. 11. Okay, folks, we are live and I'll look back to my clerk just for a quick roll call, confirm we're here.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can confirm that we have quorum.
Thank you. And now we're on to the reports from the committees. From the committee of the whole, we just completed, I believe, is it? Yep, is it not? And you have the motion?
These are the reports from the May 26th agenda, so you are correct, Your Worship, and the recommendation is that Committee of the Whole report dated May 26, 2025, being items 12.1 and 12.2 be adopted as presented.
I don't think we amended either one. One was the, I'm trying to think here.
12.1 is the AMO delegations and 12.2 is the planning consultant.
Yeah, but we don't have to say as amended because you've amended them already in the minutes.
Correct.
They've already been amended.
That is
So-
correct.
All right, so moved by Counselor Goff, second by Counselor Fisher. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And now the reports from May 12th.
That's correct, right, Your Worship, and there's only one. The Committee of the Whole report dated May 12, 2025 be adopted as presented.
And that
And
was the
that
library
is-
stats.
That's correct.
So moved by Counselor Bell, second by Counselor Tuyu. Questions? Can't imagine. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So now we're on to the correspondence for council. Lots of them here.
With May 26 council correspondence recommendations for items 13.1 to 13.4 be adopted as presented.
Yeah, some of them were to receive and some were to support.
That's
Correct?
correct, Your Worship.
Yes, we have lots of questions here. I'll start with Counselor Fisher, Bell, then Goff.
I think we have, it's the same, we have the
Same
same
question.
question.
Go ahead, Counselor Bell.
Yeah, what we're trying to understand is what does support mean now? So we used to receive and support, and that meant that we were supporting the resolution that was circulated to us, and then staff would send in the letter on our behalf. So now I did receive communication that said the motion would say to support, but then I would still need to have a resolution, put a notice of motion for a resolution if I wanted to actually place the resolution. So, and Councillor Fisher and I had the same question. So we're just looking for clarity on what does receive and support mean under this new format.
Go ahead, Jen.
Thank you, Your Worship. The term support generally happens when, for example, Town of Goderich, Town of Orangeville sent correspondence in regarding an item that they received from either another ministry, another agency, that they're supporting what is in that letter. So, and then they're circulating member municipalities. So what we will do when we're supporting another municipality's correspondence is that we're supporting their motion that they've sent. Okay, and
We're
we're advising
endorsing
them. If we wish to declare singularly, then we would have to take that original piece of correspondence that they supported. Someone would have had to pull that from our CIP. Let's use strong mayors, for example. Someone would have had to pull the strong mayors correspondence from the province to voice either support or opposition. So that, I hope that provides some clarity.
Thank you. Thank you. It does. Okay. So I guess then, and then I just want clarity, please, if it's okay. So we are only allowed to place one notice of motion and one inquiry motion, both are the same, or we can just.
That's correct.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, it's just a few, it's all just procedural. So, for example, this first one is the saltwater pollution. So on this one, receive and support. So we're going to be supporting Stouffville's correspondence. That's great. So now I will want to bring a resolution on that.
That's correct.
And so.
Okay, well, we haven't voted on it yet, but it's saying right now that we support the town of Stouffville is what the recommendation is.
I know. Right, I know. So, sorry, Joe's just, because your
Sorry,
mic's off.
so,
No, it's
yes.
okay, but your mic was off. Yeah, so this resolution dates back a couple of years when the Salt Symposium started and Landscape Ontario went to Queen's Park Day and all sorts of things, and it's based on an older model. So ultimately, I would want to bring a resolution. Joe's just saying that conservation is prepared to circulate that resolutions. So I guess I just was looking for clarity. So it's one notice of motion, one inquiry motion, and those have to come as separate and seconded resolutions.
Yes,
The week before.
that's correct.
Thank you.
So am I hearing we don't want to support this resolution? No, we're on, I'm going to do them one at a time because I think that's easiest. Town of Stouffville, any concerns? We're saying we will support. On this one, no? Okay, go ahead. Town of Stouffville. No. Yeah, I'm just gonna go through them one at
I
a
think,
time.
Jen, I think it's just procedural. Are you still talking procedure? Yeah, because I thought we
Oh,
had the same
procedure,
question, but
oh,
maybe
go
we
ahead,
don't.
yeah. Goff, did you have a procedure one too or no? All right, I will go with Counselor Fisher.
Okay, so then I guess my question then is, procedurally, both item 3 and item 2, 13.3 and 13.2 have very similar wording about the opposition of strong mayor power. So why are we receiving and supporting one and receiving the other one?
One of them kind of talked on both sides, so I remember when I read it, so there didn't seem to be any support. And in some cases, they're looking for support, in other cases, they aren't. Yeah.
That was Severn one, because that was the one thing that I was going to talk about too when we get to that one. It's a whole different thing is they're looking for answers as well.
Right. So that's why we're just receiving it. If I may, Madam Clerk, go ahead.
There's differences in the wording of the motions. Some are requesting different actions and some are expressing different views. The ones that are clumped together are opposing it. Severn, for example,
Oh, I recognize Severn is separate, but City of Quinte West, they're also in opposition and it wasn't included in item 13.2.
right. So just give me a second and I'll pull it up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I do think just in what you're saying, Quentin West, if you read through that, though, it talks about, they actually support some of the reasons for strong mayor. There's just some concerns. So I think it's because there's different content in each of them that they're not the same as the other 3 or 5.
Right. Or one is just opposing and that was the one we're going to support. All right, so how about now we go back to the first one, Town of Stouffville, because there is a suggested motion that we support. Counselor Goff.
Thank you. I was trying to explain to Counselor Bell, because I believe she was going to put a motion forward or a notice of motion or something to have our own resolution. At last Friday's Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority meeting, it was discussed about a resolution coming from Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation regarding the salt usage. They also had a very good presentation that I would like to have them come up and give to our council, because it's actually really eye-opening, some of the data that they have. And I think everybody would be, our residents as well, would be well versed in seeing this. So I'm okay with supporting this as long as it's not a resolution that we're going to pass to move forward and support it. Because I know that Conservation Authority is.
See, I would be more inclined then to receive this and invite the Conservation Authority here to do a presentation. Gail, what are your thoughts? I see you've come on.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. And just a couple of reminders as the clerk, I gather, is reviewing one of the pieces of correspondence. So the CIP process, if a member of council chooses to pull that, a member of council is meant to identify specifically what they're looking to do, whether they actually want to support it, just receive it. So that direction comes from the person who is actually asking for it to be pulled. So just as a reminder, if we are looking for a presentation from the Lake Simcoe Conservation Group on a particular subject matter, my advice, Mr. Mayor, would be that we would work with the councillor in terms of what they're looking for and put that forward as a inquiry motion, and we would have that ready for the next meeting, June 2nd.
Okay, thank you. Beautiful day out in the parking lot there. You can come in anytime you want. With that, so if everybody is fine with the supporting the motion here, I think it's harmless enough. So, okay, so now we're on to the, I'm going to go through them one at a time. Number 2, which is that we support the one from Godrich, I think it is, town of, is it not? Oh, all 6 of them, yep. Questions on those ones? Not seeing any. So then the other 2 areas of council received the one from Quentin West because it had mixed messages, and same with receiving the one from Severn. So any other questions or concerns on the suggested motions? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So postpone motions, we have none, planning motions, none, deputation motions.
The deputation by Yashin and Yasher Radovard representing 1963271 Ontario Inc. regarding a request for site-specific exemption for 1207 Black Beach Lane for short-term rental combinations be received as information.
Be received, be no action taken, moved by Counselor Bell, second by Counselor Goff. Yeah, I think we did look at the map and the house is within the 300 meters as well. So, I mean, to me, there's no way we would accept that. So on the motion to receive, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Notice of motion. Seeing any council motions previously given, don't have any. Inquiry motions, don't have, yes, Counselor Bell, yes.
Thank you. Okay, so I just want to, again, it's kind of procedural. So we've already had discussion today on the notion of inviting Enbridge to come in. And now we're also having discussion on the notion of inviting conservation to come in. So the procedure by law right now says that in order for us to do an inquiry motion, we would have had to do that last Monday. But the discussion on the Enbridge and on conservation both just occurred right now. So can we place inquiry motions in the moment if we have a seconder? Or do we have to now have one of us submit this and bring it?
The way I would say it, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Gail, is we've had the discussion and we've it's going to be on the next committee, the whole report, will it not, on both those?
Thank you, Worship. And it won't actually be a report. What we will be doing is preparing a motion on behalf of the member of council who has raised the request. And you'll see that at the next meeting on June the 2nd. It is still prior to the deadline period, and we will take this as advisement and prepare those inquiry motions before the 12 noon deadline. So you will see those two inquiry motions coming forward on the June 2nd meeting. Inquiry motions not already listed on the agenda, your worship, would not be in order. So consequently, they need to be appropriately placed on the agenda for the public to understand what is going to be discussed at council.
Right, because they tied to the agenda we had today. So we're going to get reports.
And just a follow up, please, if it's okay. Thank
Yes.
you. Okay, so if I had, I know we're going to do some scenarios, but if I had put that, let's just say I already knew that I already had an inquiry motion on this agenda right now, and then submitted for the next agenda, I should say. So I've submitted one for June 2nd, just say, and then all of a sudden today we're talking and this notion of Enbridge comes up. That would be inquiry motion number 2. Well, I'm only allowed to place one, but I couldn't have known that the Enbridge one was coming. So is it always a hard, fast rule? One member can only place one. In other words, if I had already placed one for June 2nd, then automatically Enbridge has to move until the end of June. Because it will hold up our business processes if that's the way we operate. So
well, there's 6 other counselors at the table. So if there's an appetite for it, somebody else can bring that notice motion forward. Yeah. But again, we're already getting those reports anyway. They're not suggested to come to council for direction. Yeah. I'm looking at Gail again. Uh-oh, she's frozen. All right.
No,
Yes.
no, I'm not. Mr. Mayor, I'm just following the discussion. So if there is, as members of council will recall, there's a requirement for a mover and a seconder. So what we would do is make sure we've got the mover and seconder to place it on the agenda. And I just want to clarify the reference to reports. So what you will see is actually an inquiry motion that is phrased in and along the lines of that staff be directed to determine the feasibility of inviting Enbridge to come and do a deputation to council. You pass that next week, and that ultimately is the direction that council or that staff require in order to invite Enbridge to come and do a deputation. So that direction will come forward on June the 2nd. In terms of multiple asks, certainly, Mr. Mayor, you made a very valid point in that there are 7 members of council, and if there is a desire to have, if one member has more than the one inquiry motion, certainly they should be reaching out to their colleagues to see if they would support a further inquiry motion. That would be my advice, Your Worship, on those 2 issues.
Okay, thank you. So that's notice of motion and council motions, inquiry motions. So I think we're on the bylaws. Inquiry? Yes, go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. Yeah, I briefly had a chance to discuss this with the CEO as well as some of our planning and infrastructure staff. And I know that the best path forward is to ask via this inquiry motion, but the possibility of a boat launch in Ramara Township for our residents to use, I'm hoping that we can look into the possibilities of that.
So you could have that for the next meeting as long as it's in time, Gail, am I correct?
Through your worship, if the member of council is looking for a report on the potential of boat launches, absolutely, just reach out to staff and we'll prepare that motion for you.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Sorry.
yes,
Sorry, just procedurally, so that's just confusing. How Joe
no,
and
you
I
need a
are both
mover and a
confused.
seconder and you would put it in.
I know, but there is no mover or seconder, but then CAO is just saying that can happen next week. So just for
No, it
clarity.
would show up as an inquiry next week, not on a committee of the whole. It would show up as an inquiry, then we would decide whether we want to go in that direction.
So right now, so what Councillor Tuya needs though is a seconder to even bring that next
Right.
week. So she'll have to circulate to all of us. Okay. I just want to make sure we're all doing it right.
Yep. And then it'll show up under inquiries and then we'll decide whether we want to pursue that direction. Or you can always bring a notice of motion with a seconder. Yeah, either way. Okay. Confirmation bylaw.
That bylaw 2025-34, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on the 26th day of May, 2025, be considered read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Moved by Councillor Bell, second by Councillor Fisher. All in favor? That is carried. And now the council that we now adjourn at, oh, go ahead, Madam Clerk.
11:28 a.m.
All right, until, does it say until? No, we don't put that anymore. Moved by Councillor Goff, second by the deputy mayor. All in favor? That is carried. County tomorrow.